Good morning.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm trying to fish a cable that fell out of my computer and is
Oh,
on the floor, but it's behind my desk
oh,
and I can't figure out where it's coming from. I know it was plugged into the computer, and I think
hmm.
it had to have been the printer because that's the only thing that isn't connected at the moment.
I see. Well, I guess if you try to print something, you'll know for sure.
Right. Well, the printer is also Wi-Fi, so it probably won't matter that much.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Oh, are you going to have to move the desk, do you think? Or
No,
no?
I figured yesterday for class last night, I took the computer into the kitchen. So
Ah,
I pulled all the plugs out of it and just used it by
yeah.
itself.
Uh-huh.
So while I was gone, the plugs decided to fall on the floor, but one of them is a big, heavy cable. So I
Oh,
was able to wrap the other two around that one and pull it up from behind the desk. But I can't get the other one. This last one is too short to
uh-huh.
to
To get
wrap
it
it
down.
around.
I
In
see.
other words, it has to come up directly, and eventually I'll do it. I'll get a ruler and I'll just pull it up with the ruler.
Okay. Good luck. Good luck.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, so finally got out, was out this morning, driving, but
I see.
did not go shopping yet. We were going to, but there wasn't enough time. We decided. So I think I'll go late. This might be the first time I go actually, without David helping and stuff. So I'll see.
Well, I'm glad you feel well enough to do that.
I think I do. We'll see. We'll see.
I know I think I do.
Yeah. So
It's okay, I have my MRI today and I find out I don't have a brain.
oh, that's right. Today's the MRI. Okay.
Yeah,
What time? What time?
3:30.
Okay.
Except I'm going earlier because I have to have some blood work done for my next doctor's appointment. So I figure I'm gonna do both today so I don't have to go back.
Good idea. Yeah, you said you were going to do that. So, okay.
But it happens to be snowing here.
Is it? Because
Yes,
there were flurries while we were out the whole way, but it
yes,
wasn't
that's what we're
actually,
getting, flurries.
yeah. So, all right. I'm going on mute. What, David?
He's not coming?
No, we're waiting. We're waiting.
We're waiting for Rabbi Karsh to show.
I don't want to mention that to him before.
All right. All right. You can mention it. Hmm. Oh, well. Hmm. So, oh, by the way, you haven't watched Conclave yet?
Not yet. I'll probably watch it over the weekend or Friday
Yeah,
night. Well, sometime.
sometime. Yeah, I get it.
It's a good Shabbos thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It has a weird ending. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Yes. I hear it's kind of eerie too.
Um, Erie? No, I I didn't find it that. We'll talk
Oh,
after.
good.
Yeah, yeah. So, hmm.
I'm not sure.
How's
I'm not even,
Leo? By the way, how is Leo doing?
Leo is hanging in there. He's doing okay. He yells at me a lot,
Oh, is he in
but
pain?
no, I
He's
don't
not.
think he's in pain. I think he's asking for either more food or to go outside and play because he likes
Ah,
to play in the courtyard. And he
yeah.
can't go out when it's this cold.
Right.
So he'll stand by the door and kind of look at me like, come on, open the door. Well, the one door, the patio door that I use to let him out is
Yeah.
frozen shut.
Oh, frozen. Oh no.
Frozen shut, which
Yeah, yeah.
means water got in the track.
Yeah. That
And
must.
it shouldn't have done that. But with me opening and closing it and it raining, snowing, sleeting, hailing, whatever it does out there.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to warm up. So
Yes,
when?
today is supposed
Uh,
to be in the mid to high 20s, which is good because I have to go out. Good morning, Rabbi Karsh. Happy
Good
day,
morning.
good
birthday.
morning. Good
Thank
morning.
you. Good morning.
Do you feel older?
Morning. No, I do not.
Good.
I don't remember any point where I felt older, but I had to remind myself I'm older.
Yes.
You 64?
Yes, when I'm 64,
We'll still need you and feed you.
will you still feed me when I'm sick?
Yeah, those were the good
Still
old,
need
those
me.
were the
Yes,
good
we
old
still
days.
need you.
We do need you, as
Yes.
a matter of fact.
I need you more
You're-
than so we're good. We're in the same boat.
Yeah, but I don't get to go to shul every morning, so you're sort of my morning. But I wanted to mention something to you that it's from yesterday, but it's a whole thing. You've been talking a lot about Gilguling, and you mentioned several times that we teach it in schools. Why don't we teach it as a thing? But there's an excellent article on Gilguling. It's under Gil, on Google. You look up Gilgul, and it's from the Jewish Virtual Library, and it's just a brief outline of the history of the concept and how it developed. And
What do you glean from it?
Pardon me?
I'm going to look at it, but what did you glean? Was there something you gleaned from it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That it was primarily, like you had mentioned, that it has an aspect of tikkun olam, and that sort of aspect has come, pretty lately. Mostly, with Gilgal is supposed to be a form of suffering, and in that sense, it's supposed to, because you're taking your soul from the loftiest heights and you're bringing it down for another incarnation, which of course is a distinct thing from its source. So these things are, it's mostly associated with sin. And if you get to the point where rectified your sins, then there's all sorts of opinions. Some say it lasts for 1,000 generations. Some say for 10. Some say for, but they're all over the map. But the one thing is that it's supposed to compensate. And the classic objection to that, of course, is that, well, what about the death of young children? They don't get very young children. And so that was the main line of argument against it. But
Against what? Against what?
About the purpose of Gilguling.
Because usually, I would say that is the most common comfort that people receive at within the communities that talk about reincarnation.
Yeah.
The most common point where it is brought up as a comfort is the death of a child. And usually what is said is they had to come back for some kind of a tikkun, and they came back, and now they're free, and they can move on. Usually it's presented as, I would say it's probably the most common time where Gilgulim come up in practical life is when somebody comforts somebody over the death of a child.
Yeah, but it doesn't have an easy fit with the concept that you're there to rectify a sin. When you
they would say something like they had to be born, they had to live a certain time here, they had to go through something.
But but that doesn't have the same notion of rectifying the sin that was present. I suggest that, I think he suggests that that's a late development. It really did, the literature didn't really get started till around the 12th century. It's not found anywhere in Tanakh, it's not found anywhere in the Gemara.
Right. Although the Vilna Gaon says that the book of Yonah is all about Gilgulim. So
yeah.
So Aryeh Kaplan also mentioned that it's not mentioned in those places.
And he says there's a great division between the Kabbalists and the philosophers.
Rav Sadia Gaon denied it.
denied it. Maimonides didn't mention it, and his son rejected it.
Really? Avram ben Rambam rejected the notion?
Yep, explicitly.
But again, I would say it is present, again, mostly in stories, but it is present. There are Gilgal stories in every culture. And they're sort of taken for granted in those stories. Somebody, when I brought it up one time, one of my students, Yinon Gurvich, sent me a quote from the Stipler saying that it is a belief. In other words, it's not just something on the fringe, but that it's that it is true to say that within our culture, it is believed that we are reincarnated. So working backwards, let's say every culture gives an indication that they believe in reincarnation. If that's the case, then why isn't it taught? Especially because it would, even with ambiguities, it would still go a long way when it comes to the question of why bad things happen to people. And it would also give more a kind of concrete sense of what happens after you die, as opposed to a vague, mysterious something without lots of definition. You could tell a kid, well, most likely, I can't promise it, but most likely your soul will come back into another body and it will live another life. And it seems like having something concrete like that would be useful, but whatever.
Why isn't a heavenly existence in communion with God? Why isn't that what you should?
Because we don't have a picture of it. You don't know what that means, and a lot of people would argue that it's one of the challenges of being Jewish within a Christian society that has such vivid imagery, like somebody meeting you at a gate after you die with a cloud, or a horned red figure if you've been bad, and it's one of the challenges, because a Jewish kid has just vague notions of something, but very little detail, which is all understandable and in many ways superior to having material imagery, but it is a challenge. And here you could sort of lean into the likelihood that the person's going to be reincarnated. I have a friend who you've met, Rachmiel. You know Rachmiel Drizzen?
Yes.
Yes. So he has told me on several occasions that after I die, I'm going to be given an option of whether to go through, even if the option is to go to Gehenna or to go to reincarnation, I must choose Gehenna. Because reincarnation, as you characterized it, is a worse punishment, because you go through Gehenna, you'll suffer, a bit during that time, and then you'll move on. But reincarnation is this cycle of having to be down here far away from the spiritual context, etc., and having to go through this over and over, that it's better. I even just yesterday, I think, we were talking about this because I was joking with him that he has to go over and over and over again. I will choose not to be reincarnated. I will choose not to be reincarnated. So that when he gets up there, he remembers and chooses not to be reincarnated.
That's the test.
But the one big one for me is the question of why bad things happen, because when you ask that question, it's, if I'm asking it about myself, or if I'm asking it about a friend or somebody else that I've met, part of what I'm asking for is some kind of explanation of why this makes sense. And it bothers me that it doesn't seem to make sense. It would take a lot of the energy out of the question to say, well, most likely they're working on something from from previous life, and they want this. They want this.
Why wouldn't why wouldn't a pure hereafter do just as nicely?
I don't know. Reb Chaim, for instance, Reb Chaim Vital suggests that the soul, when it first emerges at this plane, has 613 objectives that are reflected in the 248 positive commandments, 365 negative commandments.
Yes.
And so in one lifetime, you accomplish some of those objectives, and it's possible you also set yourself back. So you are continuously working on filling up accomplishing your objectives. So for some reason, this world is the place for doing that kind of work. At some point, you have to say that this plane of, because otherwise, why are we here at all? So at some point, you have to say there's some point at being here. So the people teaching reincarnation are saying that you're not getting it all done in one lifetime, but there's some reason why we're here on this plane, to do something. That's usually the assumption. The assumption is that we're here to do something. There are quotes like from the Arizal saying to some student, do you know that the whole reason you were put down here is because of what just happened, and you failed. So, but I think almost everybody has some assumption that we're here for some reason. So they would just extend that, I guess. But I'm working backwards, not from where it came from, but working backwards. If like I've heard reincarnation stories from Chabad, I've heard reincarnation stories from other Hasidus, I've heard reincarnation stories in the yeshiva world, I've heard reincarnation stories from the Sephardic world. And so if they're telling the stories, and if those stories reflect a belief in this, why isn't it being applied? Like the Ramchal, it has a list of 12 answers to the problem of why bad things happen. Tzaddik v'ralo, why bad things happen to righteous people. And one of them is reincarnation. And I've had this conversation with Mordechai Becher, like why would that be only one of 12 answers? That's like the one answer. Now end the subject. Just finish the subject. It's no longer an annoying question. It's a question. You don't know. Okay, you don't know a lot of things, but why is it a burning question? the burning part of it gets resolved. Just say it's reincarnation. Take away the burn. But yeah, I'm at early stages. You might be farther along on this than I am. But I'm still sort of wallowing in.
I don't think that you can measure progress in this subject. I don't think there's any experts on Google, whatever they call it, whatever the noun would be. Googleism? Gilgalism. Yeah. Transmigration of spirits. That sounds much nicer. The problem is you don't know who you're going to wind up being. And there's
I
no
know. I mean, I'm
criterion.
not saying there's no anxiety. There's still anxiety, but it's, it's
You might
there's
you
a
might
lot
wind up,
form to it. It's a lot less.
and maybe it's because I was thinking, perhaps it's because of the ambiguity of the entire concept. It's complex, and exactly what the motivations are. If you have a hereafter, you know what it is. It's punishments, rewards, very simple. You do here and then it's over. But there's so many different opinions as to how long it lasts and what its nature is, perhaps because of that reason, and because of the fact that there's no Makors for it.
But it didn't stop people from writing detailed books about what happens after you die. There are collections from the Vilna, where people have collected from different statements of the Vilna Gaon and other people that purport to map out exactly what happens after you die. Your soul is here for 3 days, then your soul's there, then your soul's doing this, then your soul's doing that. There are people that are, then you go to a tribunal, then this happens, and that happens. So there are why do these books even exist? Because people have tremendous curiosity about it. I remember
also
at the beginning of TLC, we had a couple nights question and answers with Rabbi Shalom Kamenetsky, and one of them was what happens after you die, and it was totally packed. People, that was like one, and but this is not one of the things that's taught in those sessions as an option.
I remember I once asked my grandfather, I said, Grandpa, what happens after I die? And he looked at me and he gave it sort of like a shrug and then a wave dismissal of the question.
Which, Rav Shimshon Fall Hirsch suggests this in different ways, that we're meant to focus on the here and now and not worry about that. Just focus on the here and now. Do the best you can at the here and now, and everything else will take care of itself. If we were supposed to know, Hashem would have told us about it. That kind of, and he doesn't want us to focus on it. That's why he's not talking to us about it. Just wants us to focus on the here and now. But when you tell people that, the only thing they want to know is what happens next. It is our nature, our curious nature.
Thank you.
Okay.
Positive number.
No negative number.
We're in the negative.
We're in the negative.
We're focused on the negative.
One more
Oh,
thing.
one more thing. Go ahead,
One more
David.
Now,
Yeah.
the Rambam lists all these laws. Now he lists this as negative commandments, not the Sefer Chinuch. Did they list
Yeah.
the same commandments he's listing? Are they listening? It's the same negative mitzvahs.
It's pretty much. If I'm so, what happened is there were collections before the Rambam that were written, some of them by people during the time of the Gaonim. And there was one called the Halachos Gedolos, and that the author was sort of famously called the Baal Halachos Gedolos, the master of the great halachos. So he had done it, but others had done it. I think Rav Sadigan also did a Sefer HaMitzvos where they listed the mitzvahs. And then, like the Rambam says at the introduction here, he sort of fell into this because what he wanted to do was, before each section in his codes, when he talked about the laws, he just wanted to list all the mitzvahs that were going to be referred to in his elucidation of the laws. And then when he's going through these different collections, he found them to be he found mistakes and found them incomplete. And so therefore he decided he has to write his own. In order to do this, he's got to write his own Sefer HaMitzvos. So when he wrote it, not long after he wrote a Sefer HaMitzvos, Nachmanides the Ramban wrote his critique on the Sefer HaMitzvos, where he disagreed with some of the inclusions of the Rambam and replaced them with ones he feels the Rambam left out. And then, so that was, during the Rambam's lifetime, I think. Maybe, I don't know, might be shortly afterwards that the Ramban wrote his. So you could say that's another Sefer HaMitzvos out there. And then the Sefer HaChinuch, I think, is in the 1200s. It's not, it was anonymously produced, and they're not entirely sure who it was. There's speculation about who it might be, but and so my understanding is that he is primarily following the Rambam's list. I don't know for sure. And then there were other books of mitzvahs that were published afterwards. The Chafetz Chaim did one that just includes the mitzvahs that could be accomplished today. Yeah, I think, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to do a quick search here just to be sure. Let's see. So, yeah, so the quick one thing is, he doesn't do it in the same order the Rambam does. Yeah, so there's the Sefer HaChinuch writes at the beginning of his work that he based his list off of that of the Rambam, but he doesn't do it in the same order. The Sefer HaChinuch does it according to the parshas in the Torah, as they unfold in the parshas of the Torah. But apparently there are some discrepancies between them. They're not identical, but he did base it on the Rambam's list. Okay.
What? Oh, thank you. I mean, the whole problem always seems to be, you know, the law of the conservation of mitzvot.
You mean 613?
Yeah,
all right.
the 258.
That was something that continues to puzzle me. Why the Rambam chose, because the Rambam has made it clear in so many different places that especially rabbinic writing can be read, as metaphor. Why he takes that so seriously, that there are 613, why he takes that literally. I mean, there are options with numbers, especially to go in different directions, that they don't all have to be like we do with 400 years, that we're going to be slaves in Egypt, or there's lots of options when it comes to numbers, especially if it's mentioned. It comes from a chazal. It doesn't come from the Torah. It comes from I don't remember if it's a brisa. It's I think it's a brita or something. So why he insists that it has to be taken so seriously, to the point where he has all that introduction and rules for deciding which is part of the 613, which is not part of the 613. And he has like these disagreements that raised the ire of many when he disagrees with an early venerated book that lists the mitzvahs. It's just so interesting. Okay. Mitzvah 81. That he, Hashem, prohibited us from extinguishing the fire on top of the altar. And that is his, maybe it's saying, a perpetual fire shall be kept burning on the altar, not to go out. One who extinguishes it transgresses a negative commandment. Anyone who transgresses this negative commandment and extinguishes even one coal from the coals of the altar is lashed. And the regulations of this commandment have already been explained in the 10th chapter of Zvachim. This is one of the sort of interesting cultural misnomers that the Jewish people have, which is that there is an eternal lamp which must be lit in a synagogue. And that, my father in his library had a collection of responsa from the Reform movement. I don't remember how it was published, under what authority or whatever, but it was responsa of the Reform movement. And I remember one of the questions was that the synagogue was undergoing electrical repairs. And the question was, can the eternal lamp be extinguished during that time, or do they need to have some kind of bypass system so that while the electrical work is going on, something else is keeping the lamp lit? But the actual, and a lot of people assume the connection is to the menorah, which it does say with regard to the menorah that it be lit tamid, but biblically, and what that means is that it should just be lit every day. And that's what they would do. They would, clean it out and light the lamps every day. It did become a rabbinic kind of thing. I don't know. I don't believe it's a rabbinic commandment, but I think it was a practice to clean it in some way, so there was always a light lit. But the actual commandment is not that. The commandment, when it says tamid there, a tamid can mean just regularly or like every day. So for instance, the tamid offering is not brought continuously. It's just brought every day, 365 days a year, in the morning and the afternoon. So it qualifies as tamid, qualifies as consistent or constant by happening every day. Here it says eish tamid tukad al mizbeach. So it has a similar language, but here it's interpreted that it must be continuous fire. So the continuous fire was actually on the mizbeach. It's not from the menorah. And again, they're developed a custom from it. Just want to see here. You know what I envision having is that they would have like while you're talking, you could have this AI thing that is offering sources for everything that you're bringing up. So here it says, this is actually from the Reform source. Let's see this one. So they say here, yeah, almost everybody goes to the menorah for it. See, why is it everybody goes to this CCAR responsa? Why did the Reform movement get to be? But anyways, according to this, the earliest reference that they could find in classical sources is the Kolbo, which is 15th century, who describes it as a universal custom. And this is from Chabad.org. Yeah, and they just say that in the Chabad org, it goes, in the synagogue, right above the Holy Ark, stands the Ner Tamid, the eternal flame. Its name is derived from a verse in Exodus where we read that an eternal flame was to burn on the golden menorah in the Holy Temple at all times. Although the origins of this custom have been lost, the anonymous work known as the Kolbo, published in the 15th century, records that it was a universal custom in his days. He writes, the reason for the light is to give honor to the divine presence that rests whenever a quorum of Jews gather to pray. So he does not connect it to the menorah. In days gone by, the Ner Tamid was an actual flame. In modern era, however, using light bulbs or LED has become ubiquitous and perfectly acceptable. Many Chabad congregations are not particular to have a Ner Tamid. Interesting. So that was from Chabad.org. But so I'm just pointing out an annoying fact that could be brought up at a cocktail party when somebody brings up the menorah as the source for it, that in truth, the menorah did not have to have a continuous light. It may be that they tried to keep that going, but it was not the mitzvah. This is the mitzvah for a continuous flame. The mitzvah is on the Mizbeach. That's a flame that has to run continuously, and you're not allowed to put it out. Imagine when they had rainstorms and stuff like that, and they were trying to prevent it from going out. Here, it does not, I don't think we did, it's listed as a Eish Tamid Tukad al Mizbeach Lo Tichbeh. I wonder, did we see this as a positive commandment? I don't think we see that. In other words, to make sure that the flame continuously goes. Here, it's the negative one, you can't put it out. But was there a positive commandment? He's not mentioning any here to make it going. But I wonder if, I'm assuming that they did have methods to try to protect the flame so it continued to go even in stormy conditions. But it'd be sort of interesting to figure out how they did that. Okay, I am grateful that we had this opportunity to learn together today. And I look forward to us learning together again next Monday. Be well, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi Karsh.
All right, be well.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Yes, yes.